On March 14th, 2016, we, Osnabrück Auction House Künke, will conduct auction 273 featuring ancient coins. It includes an interesting collection of Roman strikings. Especially popular among collectors are the coins of the 12 Caesars, of which we can offer to you some very outstanding pieces. In this podcast, we would like to tell you who the 12 Caesars were and why, even today, they are still something special. About AD 120, a book was published in Rome, which became a bestseller. Under the title 8 Books About the Lives of the Emperors, the author Suetonius released the biographies of the first 12 rulers of the Roman Empire. His book belongs to the few which, even during the chaos of the Great Migration, never got lost. In the 5th century, Acts of the Saints were based on it. In the 9th century, it served Einhard as a model, just as it did Petrarch in the 14th century. Uncountable manuscripts of Suetonius were stored in the monasteries, even though his book was printed for the first time as early as in 1470, only 15 years after the Gutenberg Bible. Since then, there have been countless reissues. His work found millions of enthusiastic readers, and to own the coins of the 12 Caesars became a status symbol in the Renaissance. The first emperor whose life Suetonius describes is not labeled as an emperor by modern historians. Gaius Julius Caesar was born around the year 100 BC. He had to build his career according to the rules of the republican system. It was only when his peers, after the Gallic Wars, were not willing to recognize Caesar's merits that the great commander started a civil war. How Caesar assessed the situation is best shown by his most famous coin. It shows an elephant trampling a snake to the ground. The image is reminiscent of a fable which Pliny the Elder passed on. In the rivers of Africa, as he reports, lurks a treacherous constrictor for the noble elephant to suck away his blood. The elephant can only defend itself by trampling the snake to death. And just how the elephant rescues itself from death on the coin, Caesar believed to fight for the righteous cause. When Caesar was murdered in 44 BC, there were many parties which wanted their ideas of a Roman state to come true. Gaius Octavian, great-nephew of the murdered, prevailed. He staged himself as the heir of the great-uncle and representative of traditional Roman virtues. Of course, that was a big show. Octavian was a brutal, power-seeking individual on whose order tens of thousands of people were killed. But after his victory, Octavian became Augustus, who again and again repeated that he was only outclassing his peers due to his authority. This perfectly matches the fact that Augustus permitted young men again to serve as mint masters and determine coin imagery. This denarius of Publius Petronius Turpilianus is a good example. Of course, Petronius was striving to please Augustus, if only to secure his ascent. That's why he shows an achievement of Augustus on the reverse. A kneeling Parthian presents the standard lost by Crassus. Naturally, Augustus had the right to strike his own coins. But these coins were not produced in Rome, but, for example, in Spain or in Lugdunum. Under his successor, Tiberius, Lugdunum became the most important mint in the Roman Empire. Poor Tiberius. He didn't intend on becoming emperor, but because possible heirs of Augustus died one after the other, it was him who was left over. We do owe him a very famous coin type, known as the tribute penny. It was this coin that Jesus had in front of him when he said, "Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God." The seated figure on the reverse is often interpreted as Livia. This interpretation is only understandable for people who know which role Suetonius attributed to Livia concerning the ascension of her son Tiberius to the throne. In fact, there is no information, nor are there any good arguments, that Livia and not some other Roman goddess was meant. After Augustus and Tiberius, Caligula followed. Nowadays, he is known as the embodiment of megalomania, a fact that has actually less to do with his behavior, but rather the senators' hate for him. Never forget, nearly all important historians of the Roman Empire were members of the Senate. The same goes for Claudius, who was made emperor by the Praetorians. In the eyes of the senators, a soldier emperor was absolutely good for nothing. Today we know that both Caligula and Claudius were neither crazy nor stupid. Modern historiography has refuted these renouncements of ancient authors. But in the early modern period, the 12 Caesars were understood as exemplary figures who served a ruler as either worthy of imitation or as a cautionary example. Nero was classified as the worst of all rulers. He was made responsible for the Great Fire of Rome and for the persecution of Christians. He was the embodiment of tyranny and matricide. Nevertheless, in his time, Nero achieved his successes. In AD 66, the Parthian king sent his brother to Rome to receive the rule over Armenia from Nero's hands. To commemorate this occasion, Nero chose the closed gate of the Temple of Janus as a coin image. Through that, he put himself in line with Augustus, who was proud of the fact that during his reign, peace lay over the whole of the empire. Perhaps costs simply escaped Nero's control. In any case, in the provinces, where soldiers needed to be paid, things were seething below the surface. In Spain, the revolt happened. Galba, commander of the Spanish troops, was cautious. In the beginning, he produced coins imitating older models. This one looks very similar to Augustus' coins. Only when the Senate announced Galba emperor, he produced coins with his portrait. This coin type shows how desperately Galba was looking for a tie to the extinct dynasty. On the reverse, he displays Livia, wife of Augustus and mother of Tiberius, who was supposed to have patronized him. Galba, Otho, Vitellius, all of them were not able to prevail. It was Vespasian who won the race. He was not only a very successful army commander, he also had 2 adult sons with whom he could found a dynasty in order to stop another civil war. The most famous of Vespasian's coins shows the weeping Judea on its reverse, seated under a trophy of Jewish weaponry. Knowing Vespasian's mischievous portrait, one can easily imagine how this personally modest man mocked imperial splendor. "Oops," is what he said according to Suetonius, when he was about to die. "Oops, I think I will become a god." While Suetonius stylized Titus, who only reigned for 2 years, as the embodiment of a noble ruler, he viewed Domitian as the incarnation of evil. Even though Domitian had many military successes and reformed the tax and finance systems, he was very pious and worshipped Minerva. This is apparent by her countless appearances on coins. Domitian was stabbed to death at a palace revolt. Suetonius' book ends with his death. The time of the adopted emperors began. Trajan presented himself as the Optimus Princeps, as the best prince, and whoever, as Suetonius, wanted to write under him had to be part of this presentation. Suetonius' book of the 12 Caesars became a favorite book of the powerful. They collected the coins and put up portraits to remind themselves that even the most important rulers were people, and that every individual decides on his or her own to become either an Augustus or a Nero. We from Auction House Künke would be delighted to welcome you to our 2016 spring auction. Have we intrigued you with this movie? If so, we recommend you to take part at auction 273 on Monday, March 14th, 2016. Please don't hesitate to contact us should you have any further questions.